Maria, a 50-year-old woman, was well respected in her neighborhood. With her warm smile and her ability to make anyone feel at ease, she could light up every room she entered. She was the person everyone looked to for advice or a word of comfort, but few knew the reality hidden behind that perfect appearance. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Maria had been married to Fabrizio for over 20 years, a man who on the outside seemed charming, charismatic, and successful. He was a prominent businessman in the real estate sector, and his status gave him an aura of respect throughout the community. But behind the facade of the perfect husband, there was a very different person. Fabrizio was not only a demanding husband, he was manipulative, contemptuous, and over time he had also become verbally abusive. Maria and Fabrizio's marriage had a normal beginning, like many others. There had been love, there had been complicity, and the first years together seemed to promise a happy life. After the birth of their 2 children, however, something changed. Fabrizio began to show signs of control and possessiveness. He wanted to decide every detail of family life and gradually began to reduce Maria's independence. Maria, who had previously worked as a teacher, decided to leave her job to devote herself entirely to caring for her children, a move that seemed right at the time. With Fabrizio often away for work, she took on the burden of managing the household and raising the children. Although it was okay at first, as the years went by, she began to feel the weight of that choice. Her passion for teaching had never faded, and when her children became teenagers, Maria began to think about the idea of returning to work. But Fabrizio had other ideas. Whenever Maria mentioned wanting to resume her career, he ridiculed her, belittling her abilities. "Who would hire you now? You don't have the skills anymore. You've been out of the workforce for too long," he would say, making Maria feel inadequate. Her self-esteem, already shaken by the long time away from her passion, began to falter. But Fabrizio didn't just sabotage Maria's dreams. Over time, his behavior became more and more oppressive. He began to control every aspect of her life, criticizing every decision and insinuating that she was incapable of doing anything on her own. "It's only thanks to me that you're moving forward," he often repeated. "Otherwise, you would never have made it." These words, repeated like a mantra, slowly began to erode Maria's self-confidence. Her friendships, once a source of joy and support, became a source of anxiety. Fabrizio insinuated that her friends were talking badly about her behind her back, that they weren't sincere, and that they didn't truly care for her. Maria began to isolate herself, ceasing to spend time with the people who once made her happy. The situation worsened when Fabrizio's father, Riccardo, suffered a stroke. Fabrizio forced Maria to take care of him full-time. "It's your responsibility," he told her, as if the fact that Riccardo was her father-in-law automatically gave her this task. Maria, always generous and full of love for her father-in-law, accepted, but the weight of that choice took its toll. Abandoning the idea of returning to work meant giving up a piece of herself. While Maria took care of Riccardo, Fabrizio continued to live his life as usual. He spent many hours away from home, justifying his absences with work. But soon Maria began to suspect that there was something more. Fabrizio often spoke of other women, insinuating that he was highly desired and making her feel inferior. "You should consider yourself lucky to have me," he repeated to her, fueling her insecurities. Despite all these difficulties, Maria continued to feel a sort of gratitude towards Fabrizio. She thought that, deep down, she should be grateful for the stable life they had built together, for the children they had raised. She convinced herself that perhaps it was she who was not enough, who did not deserve more. But the turning point came one day. Maria was out with her sister to run some errands when, by chance, she saw Fabrizio with another woman. Not only were they together, but she caught them kissing. Maria's world collapsed in that moment. All her fears, doubts, and sacrifices she had made for Fabrizio came crashing down on her in one fell swoop. Back home, Maria was determined to expose her husband. Heartbroken, she accused him of betrayal, hoping for some form of repentance. But Fabrizio, as always, laughed at her. "You're crazy," he told her. "You imagined it. You're jealous and insecure. There's no truth in what you say." Despite the evidence, Fabrizio managed to manipulate her, making her doubt herself once again. In the end, Maria apologized, asking for forgiveness for having doubted him. But that moment marked the beginning of a profound change in Maria. Fabrizio's betrayal had broken something inside her. She began to realize how much she was a prisoner in that toxic relationship and understood that she had to act. She decided to start giving private lessons in secret, starting to earn some money again and finding a part of herself again. Over the next few months, Maria gradually regained control of her life. Even though Fabrizio continued to insult and oppose her, she felt stronger and stronger. One day, after another heated argument, Fabrizio grabbed her by the neck and squeezed hard. It was at that moment that Maria realized that she could no longer tolerate the violence and contempt. She confided in her sister and some trusted friends. With their support, she was able to create a support network around her. But the biggest surprise came from her father-in-law, Ricardo. Even though he was ill and dependent on Maria's care, he offered her a gesture of gratitude that changed everything. He gave her one of his properties and, in an even more radical gesture, excluded Fabrizio from his will, leaving his entire inheritance to his grandchildren. Maria, together with her children, planned the escape. One day, while Fabrizio was away on business, they moved all the necessary objects to the new house. When Fabrizio returned, he found the house empty, devoid of life and everything he knew. He was left alone, shocked by what for him was an unexpected move. He tried several times to contact Maria, asking for forgiveness and trying to reconcile. But it was too late. Maria had finally found the strength to free herself from that emotional prison. She lived with her children and Ricardo in the new house, surrounded by the love and serenity she had longed for. Maria had finally found herself. She was living a full life, dedicating herself to her passion for teaching and caring for her children. Her father-in-law had been understanding and generous and gratefully acknowledged Maria's support. Every day, Maria felt stronger, freer, and Fabrizio was now part of a past from which she had finally freed herself. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end and see you next time.